So it's my great pleasure now to introduce somebody who really doesn't need much of an introduction. Daniel Ellsberg is best known perhaps for releasing the Pentagon Papers and being sentenced to 109 years in prison. He also was a Pentagon nuclear war planner. His forthcoming memoir is entitled America's Doomsday Machine, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. Daniel was the subject of a feature film in 2009 called America's Most Dangerous Man. And I am very proud and pleased to say that the America's Most Dangerous Man is my friend, Daniel Ellsberg.
Thank you very much. How many people here, I'm glad to see that not everyone is my age here. How many people are under 70? Can I see hands? Okay. You're looking at people who have lived every day of their lives under the shadow of Hiroshima and the shadow of nuclear war, a shadow that has recently been seen as so thin that most of your colleagues who are not here today are not even aware of it. And yet, if the plans today on Russia and the U.S., which are essentially the same in their targeting, their effect on cities, as the plans I worked in the Pentagon half a century ago, if those were triggered by a false alarm, as could happen, or an accident, as could happen any hour of this time, or if they were triggered by escalation of the kind of conflict that we are being groomed for and primed for in the Ukraine, the first direct armed conflict that's threatening now between U.S. and Russians since the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. If those plans were carried out, the shadow from the smoke of the burning cities in Russia and China and U.S. and Europe and everywhere else, that smoke would be lofted into the atmosphere, into the upper atmosphere, the stratosphere, by the kind of firestorm that destroyed Hiroshima and another city 5 months earlier, into the stratosphere, where it would go globally around the world and create a shadow that would blot out the sun for over a decade. What's been called nuclear winter, but the effect on that on harvests around the world, killing them, ending vegetation essentially in harvest for a decade, would lead to nuclear famine, to starvation of essentially everyone, northern and southern hemisphere. It is outrageous that these numbers of weapons and their targeting remain on alert or exist in the world. Now, I want to address the people who are over 70 here. It's very moving for an American to be looking at hibachi here, and I thank you for the witness of the last 70 years, and that you're still at it very much. Some of the Japanese here might even have been survivors of an even greater terrorist attack which took place 5 months earlier, and which not only prepared the way for Hiroshima, but made the use of the atom bombs virtually inevitable. And that was the firebombing of Tokyo on March 9th and 10th, 1945, of which very few Americans are aware, which killed 80 to 120,000 people, and was followed by the firebombing of another 64 Japanese cities. Meant that the nuclear weapons were simply the instrumentation with the one bomb of what we were already using with 300 bombs. The people I'm looking at here right now have been using the last 70 years to try to warn people against that prospect of nuclear annihilation, and we owe them our great thanks and gratitude. And there are other here, even Americans, who have spent more time than I have, which is 40 years. There are people like Peter and Cora Weiss who've been at it longer, doing the same job. What the Buddha would call right livelihood. Using your life, not that excludes right livelihood, arms makers, poison makers, and Gandhi's addition to that dictum was use your life to resist and expose and resist with your own bodies, with your lives, such prospect of annihilation. That's what we're doing. I want to say from the depth of my height or whatever, 84 years now. I want to make the judgment, as I say, you have been using your lives well. We have not done too much or too little. We've done everything we can, and we will continue to do it for the rest of our lives, and that is the best use of the life we've been given. Thank you.